Right. Ever been at a party, kind of loud, everyone's chatting away, and then suddenly you lock eyes with someone across the room, and it's
Right.
like everything else just kind of disappears.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right? Well, today we're diving deep into the science behind that feeling, that instant attraction. And trust me, it's way more than just love at first sight.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating mix of like nature and nurture, don't you think?
Totally.
We like to think we're totally in control, but there's a whole lot happening beneath the surface that's influencing who we're drawn to.
Absolutely. So let's start with that, the kind of primal stuff, the biology.
Yeah.
And when I say biology, I mean pheromones. What's the deal with those? How do they play into all this?
You know how you can just smell like freshly brewed coffee and bam, you're more awake?
Mm.
Or how lavender can be calming?
Mm-hmm.
Pheromones are kind of like that, but instead of us consciously smelling them, they're thought to really tap into our subconscious. So they're influencing us even if we don't realize it.
So wait, are you saying we're sending out these invisible signals all the time?
Exactly.
Well,
And this is where it gets super interesting. There's actually research suggesting we're more attracted to the pheromones of people with different immune systems than our own.
seriously, why is that?
Well, think about it from like an evolutionary perspective. It's all about survival, right? If you have a partner with a different immune system, chances are your offspring inherit a more diverse set of defenses. Makes them way more resilient to diseases.
Wow, that's wild. So it's almost like our noses are playing matchmaker without us even realizing it,
Yeah.
making sure our kids get the best possible immune system. Kind of sneaky, but also brilliant when you think about it.
It really is. But pheromones, they're just one piece of the puzzle. Our brains are also hardwired to like find certain physical features inherently attractive.
Okay, so like facial symmetry.
Exactly.
How symmetrical someone's face is. Why is that so important?
Well, if you look across different cultures, symmetrical faces, they tend to be rated as more attractive. And there's a reason for that. Symmetry is often a sign of good genes, good health. Think about our ancestors, right? They didn't have modern medicine, so that preference for symmetry, it was a way to pick healthy mates.
So it's not just about vanity.
No.
It's about survival instincts passed down over, what, thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you wonder how much of attraction is actually a choice and how much of it is, like, already decided for us.
Yeah.
But, okay, so it's more than just a good immune system and a symmetrical face.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hardwired for survival and all that, but we're not just like walking around sniffing out good genes all the time.
Right.
Have you ever noticed that just being around someone you're attracted to, it just, I don't know, it feels good. Like you're on this like wave of good vibes.
100%. So what's going on there?
It's like a chemical love potion, right?
Yeah.
So when we're attracted to someone, our brains are flooded with all these hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, the feel-good chemical.
Yeah.
And those activate the reward centers of our brains, which just makes us crave more of that feeling, more of that person.
Yeah, it's like our brain is giving us a high five for finding someone who, like, checks those biological boxes.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. But we're not robots, just, like, responding to hormones, are we?
Not at all. And that is where the psychology of attraction really comes into play. It adds this whole other layer of complexity, and it goes way beyond those initial sparks.
So we talked about all that biology, those invisible signals, subconscious cues, it's a lot. But what about the psychology of attraction? What happens after that initial spark?
Well, one of the most interesting things about attraction is how much our environment actually influences who we're drawn to. Have you ever noticed how many people meet their partners at work or school or even just living in the same apartment building?
Yeah, all the time. But I always thought that was just, convenience. Like you're around them more, so of course you're more likely to develop a crush.
Sure, that's part of it, but it's a bit deeper than that. It's this psychological thing called the mere exposure effect. Basically, the more we're exposed to anything, a person, a song, whatever, the more familiar it becomes. And familiarity, well, it often leads to liking.
So even if we don't realize it, our brain starts associating those familiar faces with feeling safe and comfortable, and then bam, that can lead to attraction.
Exactly. Our brains are kind of programmed to be a little wary of the unknown. So when we see someone regularly and, they don't pose any threat, we relax a bit. And that comfort, it can totally spark attraction.
Makes sense. Okay, so proximity is huge. But it's got to be more than just bumping into someone at the coffee machine every day. What happens after that initial spark? How does attraction grow from there?
That's where shared experiences and similarities come in. We tend to gravitate towards people who share our values, our interests, even our quirks.
So that whole birds of a feather flock together idea, what about opposites attract? Is that a myth?
Pretty much. While a little difference can be fun long-term relationships, they tend to thrive on shared values and common ground. It's about feeling understood, validated, which is so key for a strong connection.
It's like finding someone who speaks your language,
Right.
gets your jokes, shares your passions, understands your view of the world. That's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. It's about feeling seen and understood for who you really are. And that's incredibly attractive. But of course, we can't talk about attraction without mentioning the elephant in the room, physical attraction.
Right, right. We talk about symmetry, but I'm guessing cultural influences play a big role in what we find physically attractive, too.
Oh, 100%. Sure, there might be some universal things like that preference for symmetry, but so much of it comes down to how we're raised, what our culture tells us is attractive, even what we see in the media.
It's crazy how much beauty standards have changed, even in the last few decades.
I know, it's constantly evolving. So yeah, those initial sparks might be down to biology, but it's important to remember beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. Our experiences, our culture, our personal histories, it all shapes what we find attractive. But there's one more piece to this puzzle we need to explore. Emotional connection.
Emotional connection. It feels like that's where the real magic happens, right? It's the kind of attraction that goes beyond those initial sparks and really lays the foundation for, something deeper. What's the science behind that?
It really comes down to how we feel when we're with someone. Think about someone you just love spending time with. Could be a close friend, family member, romantic partner, whoever. What is it about them that just makes you feel good?
I guess it's that feeling of like truly being accepted for who you are, feeling understood, supported.
Exactly. And when we're with people who make us feel good about ourselves, who are kind and empathetic and understanding, it triggers those feel-good hormones again. But this time, it's not just that initial rush of attraction. It's about building something deeper, based on trust, respect, real emotional intimacy.
So it's not enough to just find someone who's physically attractive or shares our interests. It's about finding someone who makes us feel good on a much deeper level, emotionally.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful ways to build that kind of connection is through, well, it's called reciprocal liking.
Hmm.
Basically, we tend to like people who like us back.
Makes sense.
It's like this positive feedback loop. Someone shows genuine interest in us, validates our feelings, really listens to us, and bam, it boosts our self-esteem, which then makes them even more attractive in our eyes.
It's like that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you know someone truly appreciates you for you.
Yes.
And that just makes you want to be around them even more.
Yeah.
It's like this amazing cycle of connection.
Exactly. And this brings us to an interesting point, which is the role of mystery in attraction. We talked about familiarity, shared values, all of that. But there's a whole school of thought that says a little bit of unpredictability. It can really intensify attraction.
Oh, you mean like the whole playing hard to get thing?
It's a little more nuanced than that, and I definitely wouldn't recommend playing games with someone's feelings or anything like that. But there's something to be said for, maintaining a little bit of mystery, letting the relationship unfold organically. Because when someone puts it all out there right away, it can kind of dampen the excitement of discovery.
It's a little intrigue keeps the spark alive.
Absolutely. Our brains are wired to crave novelty, a little bit of a challenge. Think about it. The beginning of a relationship is so exciting because there's so much you don't know yet. You're discovering new things about each other all the time. And that journey, it's a huge part of what makes attraction so compelling.
So we've got biology, psychology, this whole mix of hormones, even a bit of evolutionary hardwiring. It's a lot.
It really is.
So where does evolutionary psychology fit into all of this?
Well, evolutionary psychology zooms out a bit. It looks at attraction through the lens of, well, survival. The basic idea is that our preferences, they aren't random. They've been shaped over thousands of years to make sure our species continues on.
So for example, men might be biologically wired to be attracted to women who show signs of fertility, like youthfulness, a healthy appearance. And women, on the other hand, they might be drawn to men who seem stable and strong, confident, with resources, those who would be good providers.
Exactly. And from a purely evolutionary perspective, it makes sense. Men who are attracted to fertile partners, they're more likely to have children. And women who are attracted to strong, resourceful partners, they had a better chance of seeing their children survive and thrive.
So those instincts, they've just been passed down for generations.
Right.
It's amazing to think these ancient drives could still be playing out in our modern relationships, even if we don't even realize it. But we're not just, like, puppets controlled by primal instincts, are we?
Of course not. Biology and evolution, they definitely play a role, but we're not slaves to our instincts. We can think for ourselves, be self-aware, and ultimately make choices that feel right for us.
It's about finding that balance, I guess.
Exactly.
Recognizing the influence of our biology and our evolutionary past, but also remembering we have the power to make our own choices about who we let into our lives.
I love that. Attraction really is this fascinating, complex thing.
It really is.
This mix of primal instincts and our modern way of thinking, our subconscious desires and our conscious choices.
This has been an amazing deep dive, eye-opening to say the least. We talked about the hidden language of attraction, how our brains and bodies work, and hopefully everyone listening has a better understanding of themselves and the connections they make with others.
And like always, the conversation doesn't have to end here. This is just the beginning.
It is. So here's a final thought to ponder as you go about your day. If attraction is this mix of biology, psychology, evolution, all these different forces, how much control do we really have over who we're drawn to? It's something to think about as you navigate the amazing world of human connection. Until next time, keep exploring.